Hi guys, I'm Kesha. Welcome to the channel and welcome as always to our coffee times. Today I'm here to talk to you about a movie that came out last year that I really wanted to check out. I was kind of scared because I had seen really bad reviews about it, but I decided to give it a try and I actually am glad that I did, and that is The Assent.
It's coffee time!
So The Assent is kind of a new take on an possession exorcism movie, and like I said, I'm really glad that I checked it out because it was not as bad as I have seen people saying it was, at least not in my opinion. So I'm here to bring you my spoiler-free review, my thoughts on the movie. And before we go into that, if you are here, you're new, please consider subscribing to the channel and also hit the notification bell so you don't miss any more coffee times. The Assent is a 2019 horror thriller about a father that starts suspecting that his son might be possessed. So the very beginning of our story, we get an introduction on the opening credits of an exorcism performed on a kid, and at the same time a priest is telling us, it's explaining us the different stages of a possession. And this introduction set up really well the tone for the movie, the kind of creepiness that we're going to get. And after that introduction, we really jump into our story. So we're following a single father that is struggling. He's having problems with money, with finding a new job, and he's trying to keep custody of his son, Mason, and all of this while he also is struggling with his schizophrenia. So this is one of the things that made this movie really interesting for me, and I am really glad that I checked it out because I love to see movies in which they take real illnesses and they try to portray the horrors of somebody that is dealing with one of these illnesses, like we had in Relic, like we had in The Babadook. So that's why I really enjoyed the take on the possession slash exorcism story, because it was different from your typical, exorcism movies that have been overdone through the years. And at this point I'm a little bit tired of your typical exorcism movies. I think that's also one of the things that kept me away from watching this movie, but like I said, I'm really glad that I gave it a chance. Some of the things that I think the movie did really well was creating this atmosphere in the house. Everything had the same kind of dark, cold color palette to it, and everything felt really like cold, and the house was dirty, and it just felt like something decaying, like we got to see in other movies that are also touching the same topics. And I thought, the movie in general had good acting, especially the main actor, the guy that plays the father, Joel. I think he did an amazing job. However, there are a couple of the other minor characters, like the nurse, that their performances were a little bit, overdone and they were not that great. So it was kind of like a mixed bag. But another one of the performances that was good was the kid, which is also super important, especially when you are dealing with children in this kind of possession stories. So we have this struggling father trying to get a new job, trying to keep custody of his kid, and dealing with his schizophrenia, sometimes hearing things, seeing things that are not actually there, trying to cope with all of that. And on top of all of that, as if it were not enough for this poor guy, he starts realizing that his son is behaving a little bit weird. Seems that his son is also starting to see things that are not really there, and he's really worried that he has inherited his schizophrenia. And at some point he realizes, well, maybe it's not a schizophrenia, maybe my kid is just possessed. That's, very logical conclusion. And so that is when he decides to get a priest for the exorcism, your typical possession story. However, I think this movie was very clever when it came to showing the things that they were confident with showing, and using other type of creepy visuals to kind of cover up for the fact that they didn't have the budget for certain things. Most of the scenes in which we see Joel having his visions, his schizophrenia visions, they are made in a way that it looks like you're watching a 3D movie without glasses. It's this kind of blurry, as if you were watching through a lens in blue and red. And I thought, honestly, even though it didn't work out all the time, I thought it was really creative, and you know, I have to give it to them for trying something new, something interesting. And some of the effects were CG, but there was also a little bit of practical there. And you know, like I said, it was not 100% effective all the time, but I do appreciate the creativity of the team, and there is definitely a lot of creepy like visuals in this movie. This movie does not rely on jump scares, which is something else that I really appreciated, even though there's of course a couple in the movie. But I just really love how they kind of approached a topic which is, you know, the people that suffer from illnesses like schizophrenia, and they were misdiagnosed and they just thought they were crazy back in the day. So I kind of love that kind of putting the viewer into, you know, questioning if these things that he was seeing was real. Is he just crazy? Is it really coming because he's schizophrenic? Like, what is with his son? Is he also schizophrenic? It's like, it's kind of making you think about the whole topic of mental illness and visions, and do these people really see things that are not there, or are they just crazy? You know, it's this kind of topic that I love because it's something new combined with the horror genre. The movie was in general very enjoyable. Of course, it is a movie that it's not perfect and it's lacking in a couple of aspects, like a little bit in the acting, a little bit on the effects, but to be honest, I am really glad that they went to a different, complete take on, like I said, possession and exorcism story, because I don't want to see the same thing over and over again. It just loses the impact, and I did feel like they wanted to look for something different in this movie. I just feel like they had a great idea and then just jump into doing the movie, and I feel like they could have used a little bit more planning, and in order to address the topic maybe in a more kind of impactful way, because the movie was missing a little bit of structure for me. However, I have to say the ending was a little bit unexpected. There was a couple of things of the ending that I was kind of expecting to happen, but others I did not see coming, and I was glad about that as well, of course. And like I've mentioned before, this movie could be compared to something like Relic, but it is not at the same level of awesomeness. Like Relic was just perfectly planned, perfectly executed, amazing acting, and they just delivered that ending to you and left you shocked. So I feel like, you know, if you like movies like Relic, you might enjoy giving this one a try, but I mean, it's not as good as those movies. But I just feel like this movie has received a lot of critique, and it's a little bit unfair in some aspects, because I always love when a movie is trying to do something new, which is what this movie is trying to do, and I really appreciated that. Plus, like I said, there's a lot of cool, like, creepy visuals, and some of the acting is good. Yeah, and I really loved, again, how they combined, you know, horror movie with a mental illness, and they tried to tell a horror story from the perspective of somebody that is dealing with schizophrenia. So I ended up giving the movie 2 stars out of 5, which for me it means the movie was decent enough to give it a watch, and there were things of the movie that I really enjoyed. Everything under 2 for me, so you have an idea, everything under 2, it's watch it at your own risk. And everything from 2 up, I would recommend you to give it at least 1 watch. Like, again, this movie had many flaws, but I also thought that the things that the movie was trying to say were really interesting, was something new. At least it was not your typical possession story that I have seen done many times. They dared to try something different, even having a low budget, and you know, I gotta give it to them for that. Alright you guys, so this is my spoiler-free review on The Assent. Let me know down below if you have watched the movie. What did you think of it? Did you hate it? Did you thought it was okay? Let's talk about it in the comments. And also you guys, before you leave, remember to give the video a big thumbs up for support. If you want to follow me on other social media, the links are always in the description box for you guys. And I hope to see you all in the next coffee time. Bye!